For today, Greenlaw hamstring won't practice. McCaffrey oblique won't practice. Deebo shoulder won't practice. Trent ankle won't practice. Isaiah Oliver knee, he'll be limited. And Banks with the ankle won't practice.
McCaffrey oblique, does that mean rib has been ruled out of the equation?
It means just oblique.
What was the results of that MRI?
With Christian?
Yep.
Oblique.
Does that suggest it's a strain?
I don't know what it is. It's something that makes him day to day though. So.
Are you expecting all three of those guys to play? McCaffrey, Deebo, and Trent Williams?
Not today. I think they can't. They're not practicing today. He's full go.
Initials full go.
Elijah's full go.
Let me try another way. Was the MRI on McCaffrey encouraging in your view?
I thought it was. Anyone who's day to day, it means they got a chance.
Not a long-term thing.
No, it's just each day. It's the next day.
So they're all day to day.
Yes. Except Isaiah, he's limited. There you go.
Christian is on pace for almost 400 touches. Is that a sustainable thing? And was that your plan to feature him as much as you guys have in the first part of the year?
I mean, we treat him as our starting running back, so I don't really think of how many touches we want to get somebody in a year. That's week to week and how the game goes, but he gets a lot more extra because he gets thrown to so much in the passing game. But I'm happy with how he's being used. I'm happy with how he's been playing, and we'll see how the rest of the year goes.
George Kill's targets are down a little bit the last few weeks. He's had some big games, but also some quiet games with one catch. What goes into that? What are you seeing from him on film?
George's doing a good job. I mean, he's been banged up a little bit a couple times where sometimes that limits him, especially during the week where he's done a good job just getting out there and ready for the game, but had a number of opportunities. He had all his opportunities versus Dallas. He did a hell of a job, came down. He didn't get many in this game. Not many guys did, but just goes that way sometimes. And George does a lot in our run game, does a lot in our pass game. And sometimes George's opportunities get taken in half because when backs get out on routes, someone's got to block, which receivers aren't an option on that. So sometimes that's George, and he's really good at it. So that limits some of his percentages also.
Kyle, it's well documented your interest in Kirk back in 2017, 2018. Throughout all this, the injuries you've had at the position and things like that, have you ever allowed yourself to think, what if we had followed through on that plan?
Not really. I mean, you think that all the way up to the moment, and but when we got the opportunity that we traded for Jimmy, we were still thinking about it. But after those 6 games he played, we moved on, and we've moved on since then, and really look back.
And where you are now with Brock, how much trust, in terms of other quarterbacks you've had, how much trust do you have in him, and how much do you view him as we finally have some stability here? Of course, anything.
Yeah, I felt that with Jimmy when he was here too. I felt we had stability and everything, and just those injuries were tough. And then Brock, when he came in last year, you're not sure, how he is in practice. Knew he had an opportunity, a chance to be like that. But those 7 games last year that he played in, you knew it pretty well. He earned a lot of trust with me, he earned a lot of trust with the players. Going into the offseason, how he handled his injury, how he just handled himself when he wasn't able to practice, just in the meeting rooms and everything. And through every experience with him in games this year, he's earned as much trust as you could have in a quarterback.
Kirk was talking today to the Minnesota media about his time in Washington and his relationship with your father and yourself and LaFleur and McVay and that staff. And even though it wasn't the most stable environment, that he got his feet wet at that point, and he thinks back to it often. What do you remember about him during that time?
He just came in such a weird situation. We traded up. We got another quarterback with the 2nd pick in the draft, and it was a good story that, I remember we had the 6th pick, and I knew if we were going at 6, my dad wanted to take Tannenhill. I was hoping to get Kirk in the 2nd round and go a different direction. And we traded up to 2 and went with Robert. And I remember him telling me that my dad really liked Russell Wilson. And he said we were going to take Russell Wilson in the 4th and get 2 quarterbacks in there that year. And then we got to the 4th and Russell was gone. And I remember him coming to my room and was like, hey, do you still want your guy, Kirk? I was like, I don't know about that, Dad. We've gone another direction. He's like, no, the plan was going to take 2. We're still taking 2. Then we ended up taking Kirk, which I was pumped about because that's what I wanted originally. Then to be able to get both of them, and I know it's a weird situation for Kirk because to go into a place where you know you're not going to have that opportunity, but he just kind of sat there and soaked everything in and learned a lot, and it was a fun 2 years just working with him every day, but didn't get to coach him much in games. I think we had 3 games with him, but he was awesome in the office.
Kyle, you're synonymous with the outside zone run, obviously, from your dad and that, but you guys have been doing a lot more gap stuff over the last couple of years. Was that a personnel thing up front, trying to stay ahead of the curve? Like, what's gone into that decision?
Just mainly how people defend our stuff, trying to tie things together, and defense get better and better at defending that stuff over the years, especially over the last 8 years, 7 years since we've gotten here. People get a lot better at defending outside zone, and when they're committed to defending outside zone, what do they get worse at? And that's why we try to balance everything out. We try to make sure that they're playing certain things, and I think we did a lot more gaps the last couple of years. It might gone down a little bit this year, but people are playing it more. So we just try to see what the defense is playing, and we try to attack it.
Christian and Deebo both limited in the last game. How much more did you put on Kyle Juszczyk's plate, and how did he do?
Kyle did a great job. I want to say we put too much more on him because we didn't have to change any of his stuff up. It came more to kind of the receivers and the running backs a little bit, just with protections and formations and stuff. But, Juice is as consistent and reliable a player as I've ever had. He's been here since the beginning, and everyone knows that you're going to get Juice to do his job every single game. So he's as consistent of a guy there is.
He was in motion a little bit more than he'd been in the past, pre-snap.
In motion? Yeah, he may have been. We wanted to move him a lot, so he handles that pretty good.
What do you see from the Vikings defense?
I see a team that causes a lot of issues. They blitz more than anyone in the league. You can never just relax and just call a play or run a play because there's always 1,000 things that can go wrong just because of the threat of what they do in any situation. So they're on you a lot with that. They get you to make mistakes in that way. You look at the 2 games that they won. It's because they created a turnover with those pressures where they didn't have a guy to block a guy. They didn't have a hot throw. The quarterback fumbles it, and they returned 2 for touchdowns there in the second half. That's got both of their wins. So they're a team that challenges schematically and everything, and when they do that, you got to be on it.
After you reviewed the Browns film, how would you evaluate how Brock played in the game?
Similar to everyone else. Brock missed a couple, so it wasn't his best game. I still thought he made some real good plays, too. Everyone was under duress in that. It was a challenge on all fronts, and especially some of the down and distances we were in. But it definitely wasn't his best game, but just because it was his first loss and his first pick of the year, I still thought there was a number of things he did real well in that game, too.
Following up on that, how are you expecting him to respond on Monday?
Same way he always does. We'll see. This is the first time responding to a loss, but in terms of not designating wins or losses, if we would have won it in the last play of the game, he'd still have to respond the same way. So it's him just doing his job and coming in here and being the same way he's been since the day we've met him. And I don't think we're stressed about that too much because I've never seen a different guy.
What did he show you, Kyle, in the Vikings joint practices last summer where he kind of made a move?
Kind of just everything he had shown versus our own defense in practice and OTAs and training camp, and then going out and going there against a different defense where you're not used to the coverages and stuff, and just watching him still not hesitate and still not get a ton of reps. But when he did, he made the most of them, and it was very consistent with how he was here.
Now, the first down play with 3:21 left when Brock got the intentional grounding, was he supposed to move Mason to the right to pick up the blitz? Was that his responsibility on that?
No. Mason's supposed to be on the other side, so Ayuk's open. But they're blitzing more than we have there. But we had part of the play call, the back's on the wrong side, so he wasn't able to get rid of it. So there was nowhere to ditch the ball.
So he was aligned incorrectly.
Yeah.
Say 2 more. Obviously, it's a copycat league. What did you see that the Browns did on defense that you expect to see a lot more against you guys moving forward?
Browns ran their scheme, so, they did their scheme just very well. They played tight man coverage, they pressured. When they didn't, they still got there with 4 and had a free linebacker playing eyes with man, or they played a few soft zones just to mix it up, but that's what they do. They just did it very well, so most teams got to do their scheme well, and the same with us.
Tomorrow is exactly 1 year since you traded for Christian. Can you just put into words how much he's meant to this franchise and to your offense since he's been here?
Just a ton. Just how good he's been from what you guys have seen. how dependable he's been, how reliable he's been, how he learns everything, not just the running backs and stuff. So it's really easy to put a lot on his plate, move him around each week. And I think just the example he sets for everybody. And the guy is, I mean, he reminds me of just basically mentality, like a walk-on guy who's just trying to get people's attention for working so hard. And he's one of the most talented guys in the league, and was in college coming out, and every single play it's like the biggest thing in the world, whether he's getting the ball or not. And it's a really great example of how to be as a football player. All right, thanks guys.
Mm-hmm.